This week, so welcome all. Week 4, Hare Krishna everybody. So this week, very good questions were raised. One question was raised pertaining to the division of humanity into Brahmanas, Kshatriya, Vaishyas, and Shudra. What is the need for that, and what is the significance of it? Right, that's one question. The second question is the position of women in Bhagavad Gita according to Krishna. The first one we'll take first. Of course, you can read 4.14. 4.13, chapter 4, text 13 says, anybody can read the text real quick?
According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. And although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, unchangeable.
Now we'll look at the Sanskrit of this verse. Krishna says, Chatur Varnam. Chatur means four. Varna. Varna actually refers to color. And this is important to understand. Chatur Varnam Maya Srishtam. Srishtam means to create. I divided humanity. I created humanity in a way that there are four colors. And these colors refers to color of consciousness. Color of one's consciousness. Guna karma vibhagashaha. So vibhaga means to divide them. And what did I divided them? By guna. Guna means the modes of material nature. Guna. Modes of material nature. You can also say qualities. Guna means qualities. You know, we said this person has nice guna. So modes, guna also means modes of material nature. I explained in the introduction that an entire Bhagavad Gita, Krishna speaks about modes of material nature in 145 verses out of 700 verses. So Krishna says, I divided them according to guna and karma. Karma means one's actions, one's activities. Karma, we have understood that we are carrying from our previous samskaras and previous worth. Those samskaras and those activities, even though somebody has taken a birth in whatever family, it manifests. We learned that in the 6th chapter. This division is based upon one's natural activities, based upon one's samskaras from previous lives, and the modes of material nature and the qualities he has acquired. The purpose why Krishna created like this is that all of the four, so a Brahmana is a person who is in mode of goodness predominantly. He is in goodness. And why is he called a Brahmana? He's called a Brahmana because Vedas say unequivocally, Brahman janiti iti Brahmana. One who knows Brahman. His goodness is, he's meant to realize Brahman. That's why he's called a Brahmana. There are people you will find in every tradition who are naturally very deeply spiritually inclined.
You mentioned meant to realize or realized. Who are already realized or they are meant to realize?
They're already realized.
Oh, okay. So that's why they're called Brahmanas.
That's why they're called Brahmanas. In Kali Yuga, in this age we are in, the scriptures say, Janmati Jayate Shudra. By birth, everybody is a Shudra. In this text, does Krishna use the word Janma? Does he use the word family? Does he use the word lineage? No, he doesn't use it. In Kali Yuga, the Vedas say that Janmati, by birth, actually everybody is a Shudra. Samskara, Dvije, Vipra. By samskara, by actually spiritual training and spiritual education, and we take this diksha, this first diksha and second diksha, where actually we take vows to chant Mahamantra, live a very pure and clean life. By doing so, you become twice born. In Christianity, when they become baptized, they say called twice born, a new birth, a new name. So it's called by samskara. So by janma, this is dying. By janma, everybody is a Shudra. Actually, there is an equality in Kali Yuga. That by janma, everybody is a Shudra. After spiritual training and spiritual education, one becomes Duja. Duja means twice born. Okay, now I have understood the purport of spiritual life, and now after a proper diksha, proper impression of samskara, one becomes Dvija. Veda patanthi Vipra. And then when this person who's twice born, he becomes a master of the Vedic knowledge. Vedas means scriptures. Vedas means, Ved means knowledge. The word video comes from the Sanskrit word vid, from which Latin wise, wisdom, all of these words come from the Sanskrit word Veda. The Veda is that word. Video means to see. We get knowledge by seeing. So by study, one who becomes very qualified. So first everybody is born a Shudra. Then after spiritual initiation, spiritual association, impressions, spiritual practice, spiritual vows, he becomes Dvija, he becomes twice born. He takes birth again. He has a new beginning in life. That Dvija, when he becomes an expert in the conclusion of scriptures, that person is called a Vipra. Vipra. So Shudra becomes Dvija, Dvija becomes Vipra. And that Vipra, when he realizes Brahman, he's called a Brahmana. That person is called a Brahmana. And among Brahmanas, you have different gradations. Okay? It is not by birth. Now, what is most important in this categorization is that the ultimate purpose of human existence is to attain God. Okay? This person is then meant, not is an undeniable fact that not everybody is going to be like this person. He's meant to serve. Now in Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 14, in chapter 17, chapter 18, the qualities are described. We won't go into that. Brahmana, Shama, Dama, Tapas, Saucham. Shama, meaning Samha means sense control. Dama means tolerance. Tapas means austerity. Shaucham means cleanliness. In cleanliness of the mind. His mind is fixed in Brahman. Shama, Dama, Tapas, Saucham, Shantir, he's peaceful. Arjavam, forgiving. Shantir Arjavam Evacha, that person is a Brahmana.
Here,
This
Brahman means God, not the...
No, Brahman. Brahman means God. Brahman means God. Brahman is another aspect of Godhead. Who realizes Bhagavan is called a Vaishnava.
Oh, that's different from Brahman.
Vaishnava is higher than Brahmana. Vaishnava, one who has realized Vishnu as Paramatma in his heart and as Bhagavan, is called a Vaishnava. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur wrote a very beautiful book, Difference Between a Brahmana and a Vaishnava. Okay? In Kali Yuga, you will not find actually a Brahmana. It's very hard to find. Very, very hard to find. This person is meant to elevate humanity so that a Shudra. Okay, so the reason there is distinction, it is not a material distinction. It is based upon one's qualification to attain transcendence. one's qualification to attain transcendence, to realize God. In a system of Varna and Ashram, whether you are a Shudra, and what is the qualification of Shudra? His qualification generally is he's expert in a skill which is labor oriented. Now, labor could be technical labor, medical labor. I'll give you an example of labor. What labor means, what is this distinction of material qualities and spiritual qualities? Let's say in America, there are 200,000 physicians. Now, generally, physician is a Brahminical profession, generally speaking, but it's not like that anymore. We see it all the time. Nowadays, you can pass a test, and people are so greedy, and, we see so much happening. But let's say there are 200,000 physicians in America. About 10% of them in medical profession will naturally be gravitating towards research, education, teaching. If you carefully look at their qualities, they're peaceful, they're tolerant, they're illuminated by goodness. They have material goodness. This characterization of these 4 qualities actually is based upon spiritual qualities. We'll discuss a little bit later. But let's just take a material prototype of it. You will find those people. Karthik was telling me he has a dean in his college, he's a teacher, he's an educator. You will find those people are extremely disciplined, austerity, peacefulness, knowledge, jnana. You will find 10% of doctors are like that. They generally become researchers at big universities. They take big academic positions. They advance humanity. They have a very different sort of mindset. And generally those people are innovators, creators, researchers. And if you look at their natural qualities, I already mentioned the qualities. 10% of them, or actually even less than that. I would probably say 1 or 2% of the people are like that. Then you have people I'm just talking about physicians, okay? I'm not talking about anything else. Among physicians, you have people who are very much involved in leadership and management and organization. MD, MBA is a very huge thing these days. Many physicians, after going through medical school, they realize actually they don't really want to become doctors. They get an MBA or they get degrees in human resources or technology, and they lead hospital systems, they lead physical systems. They're leaders. Their mojo is leadership. There are people, you can take any specialty, and I would ask you to research this yourself. In any sphere and any field of life, you will find this. And people work best when they are aligned with their true nature. People work best and they thrive best when they're aligned with their true nature. You will find leadership, courage, heroism, power, generosity, the spirit of accomplishing, prototype of Kshatriyas. They are in mode of goodness combined with mode of passion. A Kshatriya is one whose natural quality and his gunas are goodness, sattva is there, and passion is there, rajas is there. I'll tell you some examples. In Sweden, they separate the kids after 8th grade. In India, you take subjects after high school, right? Or 10th, you take a subject, right? You go into science or commerce or arts or anything. In Sweden, they do after 8th grade, they analyze a student and they say, you're good for certain talent. You can go into sports, you can go into music, you can actually build buildings. I know a Mexican guy, he's 25 years old. He came as an illegal immigrant in this country at the age of 18. When he was 25, he was responsible for building a 55-story building in New York City. He was in charge of that. Now, it doesn't make any sense for that guy to go and study history and geography and math and science. By his own nature, he's leading a team of 20,000 workers. He can look at a blueprint and he can develop a whole city by himself. There are people who open banks at the age of 27 and 28. People have certain qualities in nature. In Kali Yuga, everything is topsy-turvy. Everybody does software engineering, so nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows what to do. This system is natural, it's scientific, and it still operates because people after a certain time, they still within their own field or they change a field, they find their own niche. Because that's how their brain and their personality and their sense of accomplishment and their sense of well-being and their sense of presence in this world works. Or otherwise they become an alcoholic. Or otherwise they do drugs, they play video games and they become an alcoholic. If they don't find that opportunity, that's what they do. Because their being cannot function, their body cannot, their mind cannot function.
So in Kali Yuga, this caste system doesn't apply?
The caste system is a vitiated, perverted deflection of what is meant to be. What is meant to be is that society works according to their own natures, harmoniously and cooperatively, without any discrimination or distinction. Everybody works as a servant of the servant, ultimately to please God. That is called Varna Ashrama. There is no exploitation, there is no pecking order, there is no vitiated perversion of reality. And Brahmanas are meant to be austere and renounced, they are meant to live poorly, and they are meant to serve everybody and help them. Like for example, a dean of medical college helps to get people medical degree. A Brahmana is meant to get people to God, to guide the society in a way that everybody can make spiritual advancement. They are generally advisors to the king. Krishna says, of men I am monarch. Monarchy was the rule of law until about 200 years ago everywhere. And still in most of the Islamic countries, monarchy exists. These Brahmanas were meant to advise the king how to organize a society so that everybody can attain God and everybody can work according to their own nature, because people have to work, and everybody can live happily and peacefully. That was Krishna's intention here in Bhagavad Gita. This is called Varna and Ashrama. And Ashrama means first 25 years of your life is meant for, first 25 years of your life is meant for development of character. Not just education, but development of character. The next 25 years, you enter household life, you marry, you have children, you raise a family. And at the age of 50, there is this brahmachari ashram. Why is it called brahmachari? Because everybody was supposed to, chari means to thrive on. Chari is like to thrive, to play, field of activity. This person was to chari in Brahman. That's why he was called a brahmachari. Every man was supposed to attain Brahman at the age of 25. This was the standard of society. Every man is supposed to attain Brahman at the age of 25. That's why it's called brahmachari. A man's psychological and emotional and spiritual development is complete at the age of 24. At the age of 24, one can attain self-realization, according to the Vedas, technically speaking, generally speaking. And a woman attains her maturity at the age of 18. Her psychological maturity. They mature earlier than men. So brahmachari, then that brahmachari enters grihastha ashram. It's an ashram for spiritual life. Grihastha ashram, not for sense gratification. Why would a brahmachari then who has attained Brahman go to Grihastha ashram? Because it's an ashram, it's meant for spiritual life. Because that person by his work, by his livelihood can support the entire society. The students don't have to work, there is no tuition. And then after a certain age, you renounce everything and start dissociating yourself from material energy, and you take what is called as vanaprastha. So I'm talking about ashrams. Varnashram, varna ashram. Ashram, you take grihastha, vanaprastha. Vanaprastha meant, vana means forest and prastha means to go. That you dissociate yourself from matter and live a life of spirit. And after that, if husband and wife are living properly together, no problem. But generally a man would just go away, he would take sannyas. Sannyas means to completely cut off his material attachments and completely focus on God. That was the standard of humanity. Even the greatest kings, they, as soon as their children were 18, 19 years old, the king was the first one to leave. Why? Because he was the most immersed in matter. So he was like, I'm the most immersed in matter, I should leave first. He would set an example for humanity. All of the kings you would see in Bhagavatam, they would leave. They would give up everything and they would go to the forest and meditate and perform austerity and penance. So this Varna was really applicable for that 25 years, and in that 25 years you really work according to your nature for the benefit of society. And everybody is equal. In fact, the person who's a Brahmana was meant to be the servant of the servant of the servant. He was meant to be the lowest. He was meant to have no material possessions, and he was meant to serve everybody in a spiritual sense. These varnas are based upon the color of the consciousness which operates in one's psyche, because it's required for humanity. Okay, so we talked about Brahmanas, we talked about people like Brahmanas, you will find people like Kshatriyas, you will always find people like Vaishyas. Vaishyas are generally influenced by mode of passion. Brahmana was goodness, Kshatriya was mixture of goodness and passion, Vaishya is mostly in passion. And this person, his main job in the community was business and artha, economy. The economy works in such a way that everybody can be prosperous, everybody can live happily according to one's needs, and nobody has to suffer for poverty or lack of money. That was the purpose of Vaishya. He would organize the society in a way for economic development. The money ultimately would be distributed and divided by Kshatriyas. Otherwise, the Vaishya, many of the CEOs, CFOs today are Vaishyas. Otherwise, if that Vaishya is not checked, his mode of passion, he will leech money from everybody. 90% of society will live on $8 an hour, and 10% of the people will have billions of dollars in offshore account. That is a Vaishya. A Vaishya will leech the skin out of your back if he's not guided properly. And that is why passion is bad. Kshatriya is also, because there is passion and goodness, he has to be tempered by Brahmanas. In Rome, until about 500 years ago, the Brahmanas would decide who would be the king. Generally, it was the Brahmanas who would decide who will be the king. Who do we want to be the leader? And that person was a representative of God on earth. Krishna says, of men I am the monarch. So Vaishya, and then you have Shudras. So I go back to my original example, doctors, right? There are about 5% of physicians who are researchers, academicians, extremely highly refined and intelligent, and they have all the qualities. I'm talking a material prototype. Then you have Kshatriyas who perform organization and leadership. Then you have Vaishyas. We have a lot of doctors who just want to make money, or they would figure out systems to make money. And generally those people have a role in an organization to play. And then you have doctors, I'll tell you, they will do the same job from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. every single day for 50 years of day. They would drink on Sundays and they would start the same thing from Monday to Sunday, and they won't change, and it would not affect them, and it gives them satisfaction, meaning, and a sense of being. Same thing every day for 50 years. There are some people who can do that. There are a lot of people who can do that. And that is generally the society.
Not for money or any gains.
Money is well, of course they get paid. But if you give them the finances of an organization, your organization will become bankrupt.
They cannot lead.
They cannot create money. Creation of money is very different from acquisition of money. And creation of money for oneself, for 100 or 200 or 500 or 10,000 people, in a holistic way, which benefits everybody, is a whole different ballgame. And leadership for an organization, so that the organization flourishes and thrives and becomes a beacon of light for humanity, is a whole different ballgame. And to have that intelligence to work it out is a whole different ballgame. You can see this phenomenon. You don't need to tell me whether you agree with me or not. I'm going to give you a lifelong exercise. You can go and now see this in the Word. And then there are different shades in here. There are different shades. People may have, mixed modes of nature. Mixed modes of nature. Goodness, passion, ignorance. But this is all a material prototype of a spiritual reality which God created Himself for transcendence. That ultimately by engaging in Karma Yoga, you come to the platform of Jnana Yoga. And that's what we will talk about in second chapter. It's not that this is meant to be just permanent. You simply engage yourself in the service of God with your qualities, and by doing so, you come to a higher mode. You transcend the mode. And that's what Gita is all about. That you actually transcend the mode by dovetailing the mode in the service of God and in the service of humanity. That is what Gita is all about. That wherever you are, you can start there. You dovetail your propensity in the service of humanity and God. And if you do it in a selfless way, you will actually come from ignorance to passion to goodness, so that you can transcend goodness. That's why the difference between Brahmana and Vaishnava. A Vaishnava is one who has transcended Brahman and attained Bhagavan. So you have to transcend goodness to actually attain God. So there are 4 modes: ignorance, passion, goodness, and then there is transcendental goodness. This is called Vishuddha Sattva. This is called Sattva Gun. This is called Vishuddha Sattva. It is also called Turiya. It's a state of consciousness when one actually can perceive God. God cannot be really perceived in these modes. So that is what Varnashram actually means.
How do we find out where we are in this?
That you can do, or and he can tell you also. Or that you can do yourself also. With some knowledge, anybody can do that. Just with a little
So
insight.
you said that Brahmanas are not found in Kali Yuga, but are Vaishnavas found?
Of course, they're rare, is what I'm saying, Shrestha. They're rare. And it has nothing to do with those Brahmanas who pester you for money in a temple. It has nothing to do with that. They're worse than, Prabhupada says they're worse than street sweepers in Bhagavad Gita.
Say Vaishnavas are better than Brahmanas, if you say, or more.
A pure Vaishnava,
Yeah, is more knowledgeable, let's put
a,
it that way.
a Brahmana, a qualified Brahmana who has attained the personal Godhead is called a Vaishnava. It's a very, very elevated platform.
So when you say Brahmana, sorry. When you say Brahmanas are rare, that means the Vaishnavas will be more rare than
More
them.
rare,
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
more rare,
Right.
more rare. Prabhupada was one such. There are several people I know in my life, I would say probably 5, who would qualify as that.
So all the acharyas would be considered like true
The
Vaishnavas.
people who are in this book, in my life, I have met about a few people, on a handful, I can say.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, on one hand you said that everybody is born
Shudra in Kali Yuga.
and then they are meant to.
See, Mohit, in Kali Yuga, the mode of ignorance is very prominent in everyone's consciousness. The Nobel Prize winner is not really a Shudra ultimately, but you will find that majority of Kali Yuga, majority of humanity operates on a platform of ignorance. Ignorance. You know, this whole slaughterhouse civilization is ignorance. This entire civilization based on sense gratification with no mention of God. Take God out of schools, take God out of the politics, take him out of government. You know, this is all actually fundamentally ignorance.
When you say ignorance, ignorance of God, that's what you mean.
It's mode of ignorance. Bhagavad Gita talks about what are the qualities of mode of ignorance. Yeah, we read it one time. Because I want to go into the second chapter, you can read it. 14th, 17th, and 18th chapter. Just read it on your own. It all talks about modes. Everything is determined by modes. Alec, real quick, let's read the 17th chapter.
Six 39.
Just read the 17th chapter. Maybe, Abhishek, you want to read just the words. You will see some ideas of modes of nature.
Arjuna inquired.
Just one second. I want to give you a little understanding of these modes. Okay, we'll read the 18th chapter, text 19, from 18.19, and we'll just read that a little bit. This is just a little sampling of modes of nature.
According to the 3 different modes of material nature, there are 3 kinds of knowledge, action, and performer of action. Now hear of them from me. The knowledge by which one undivided spiritual nature is seen in all living entities through they are divided into innumerable forms, you should understand to be in the mode of goodness. That knowledge by which one sees that in every different body there is a different type of living entity, you should understand to be in the mode of passion. And that knowledge by which one is attached to one kind of work as the all in all, without knowledge of the truth, and which is very meager, is said to be in the modes of darkness. That action which is regulated and which is performed without attachment, without love or hatred, and without desire for fruitive results is said to be in the mode of goodness. But action performed with great effort by one seeking to gratify his desires and enacted from a sense of false ego is called action in the mode of passion. That action performed in illusion, in disregard of scripture injunctions, and without concern for future bondage or for violence or distress caused to others is said to be in the mode of ignorance. One who performs his duty without association with the modes of material nature, without false ego, and with great determination and enthusiasm, and without wavering in success or failure is said to be a worker in the mode of goodness. The worker who is attached to work and the fruits of work, desiring to enjoy those fruits, and who is greedy, always envious, impure, and moved by joy and sorrow, is said to be in the mode of passion. The worker who is always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scripture, who is materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who is lazy, always morose and procrastinating is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. O winner of wealth, now please listen as I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination, according to the three modes of material nature.
So, son of Pratha, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. O son of Pratha, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in mode of passion. That understanding just irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness and strives always in the wrong direction, O Pratha, is in the mode of ignorance. O son of Pratha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice and which thus controls the activities of mind, life and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. But that determination by which one holds fast to fruitive results in religion, economic development and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness and illusion, such unintelligent determination, O son of Pratha, is in the mode of darkness. O pastor of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress.
That which in the beginning may just be like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness.
Happiness in the mode of goodness, Krishna says it, what awakens one to self-realization.
That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects, and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end, is said to be the nature of passion. And that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which arises from sleep, laziness, illusion, is said to be of the nature of ignorance. There is no being existing either here or among the demigods in the higher planetary systems which is free from these three modes born of material nature. Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras are distinguished by the qualities born of their own nature in accordance with the material bodies or chastiser of the enemy.
Material mode.
Accordance with the material modes or chastiser of the enemy.
Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. Heroism, power, determination, resourcefulness, courage in battle, generosity, and leadership are the natural qualities of work for the Kshatriyas. Farming, cow protection, and business are the natural work for the Vaishyas, and for the Shudras there are labor and service to others. By following these qualities of work, every man can become perfect. Now please hear from me how this can be done. By worship of the Lord, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a man can attain perfection through performing his own work.
So this is the point Krishna is saying, that it doesn't matter what mode you are in. By performing your work in a spirit of service to God, and we'll talk about in Bhagavad Gita, that's the whole purpose of Gita how does one transcend the modes? How does one come above the modes? What is the purpose of this? Not that, and there is no, the problem is, because the system has been so perverted, as soon as the word Shudra comes, one thinks of an outcast. But the greatest artists, greatest musicians, some of the greatest skilled people in the Vedic culture were, without the negative connotation, were Shudras. They're skilled in many ways. They're the sort of the arms and the legs of the society. Without that, nothing can actually happen. And that's majority of the humanity. This whole system has been corrupted in the last 5,000 years. And this corrupted, vitiated, ugly, perverse, demoniac system is what is the caste system which we have associated in our minds with. So that's one thing. Moving forward, just a little introduction. What is it meant to be? Okay, question about women. So there is this pastime when Pandavas win win Draupadi, and they come back. And Kunti said, okay, whatever you got, you just share among yourselves. Now, whatever she said was basically like written in stone. In Vedic culture is in fact, it's matriarchal. I'll give you an example. In my family, if my grandmother said something, basically that was it. There was no discussion about it. It was written in stone, realistically speaking. The position of women was to be honored. Krishna speaks in 10th chapter about what he thinks about a woman. Can anybody find it? Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that among women, I am fame, patience, steadfastness, fine speech, memory, and intelligence. He glorifies women by these qualities. So this whole idea, what does Bhagavad Gita propounds? Gita talks about equality of soul, number one. Men and women, like there are 4 categories, men and women are meant to do complementary duties.
Text 34, page number 4.
Is it chapter 10? Yeah. 1034.
Page number 452.
Charutta, read. Just read the text.
1034.
Yeah.
I am all devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and patience.
So basically, the purpose of women was never to be exploited, but to provide protection at the proper times in their life. So that's another point. There's equality at the level of soul. There's no discrimination. Again, what we identify with, is a pervert system. But generally, what I saw, a little remnant of Vedic culture in my life, is that grandfather was basically retired and he would do his own thing. Generally, in the Vedic culture, the guy who retires, he's meant to take sannyas. Okay, grandmother stays back. The body of a woman and the body of a man, there is one fundamental difference. And that's also for sustenance of society. The grandmother would stay back at the house and she would give samskaras. She would be the head of the household and she would give samskaras to children and to grandchildren. She was responsible for maintaining the family tradition. She was the head of the household. And whatever she said, sometimes she would make business decisions. So she would just say, this is how it's meant to be done. She would hold the title to all the properties and businesses. This is what I saw. She would make the will, so it was pretty much everything was done by the grandmother. So that's the culture that, whatever the wife says or the mother says, that is basically it. That's how the system works in many ways. Women have a very holistic intelligence about nature of reality. Okay, this chapter which we read in the first chapter where Prabhupada says this word, neither Krishna says that, neither Prabhupada says that. Prabhupada is quoting a person who existed 3,000 years ago, Chanakya Pandit. He's an authority in some ways. He helped establish the Mauryan Empire. Chandragupta Maurya was the king, and he helped him establish his entire empire. Women sometimes, and I'm making a general statement, during their teenage and childbearing years for a woman is between 15 and 22, 15, 23. You know, that's okay. Now things have gone forward, right? Everything has gone much, you can just make it 10 years ahead, 25 to 35, so to speak. It's a general statement, not a specific statement, that sometimes women are prone to degradation and being misled because their emotions run high during their childbearing years. And a protection of women in those years, what Arjuna is saying, what will happen to those women who are responsible for bringing progeny? Another point is, the hand that rocks the cradle, it rules the world. Women are meant to give samskaras to the children. It is woman who carries the baby for 9 months. It is the woman who gives her breast milk. And actually a man, it is a scientific fact that a man gets his nature and his sense of security in this world from his mother. If a man grows up without motherly love, he will actually never be able to love God. It's the love of the mother which is actually the love of God in his heart. When I said a 24-year-old man can attain self-realization, that man has to have a perfect childhood. You see all of this depression, anxiety, psychological illnesses, it is because of lack of proper love. And because the woman is not protected, she has to go and do so many things, and she's afraid where the money is going to come from. She's not even protected by her husband. There is no love there. So you will find, just look at it, and you don't have to tell me, you do this research for yourself. You will find that a woman will many a times take her nature from her father, but a man takes his nature from his mother.
There was some story that on Saturday we went to one. Yeah, so he was. So Prabhu was telling the story of Prahlad, that how when he born.
He was born in the mother's womb. You read the story of a saint. You will find the influence his mother had on him. Any saint in any tradition. Any saint in any tradition, behind every successful man. The whole point is about acknowledging the natural differences which happen and to how to best optimize it for sustenance of society. That is the whole point. Vedic culture is not at all discriminatory or patriarchal or matriarchal. It is very practical and scientific, and what works, very pragmatic. What really works, what really works in reality.
So this is regarding the modes. Is it okay? Can I
Yeah.
So currently we worked all the modes and all the different qualities. So as Prabhupada also, how do we know first and foremost what modes we act, and how is our occupation? Because we are in a society which doesn't follow this varnashram, so we might be in an occupation which is not according to the modes.
So the question is, within the occupation, Karthik, I was giving several examples. Generally, people will find their own mode over a period of time, because it is natural. And I'm telling you, if the person does not find his mode, you will find, that's why men sit in the bar at night to drink. Because they're so miserable. So modes we talked about men and women. There are certain statements in Bhagavad Gita which I myself feel very, I feel that those statements it would have been better if they're not there. There are many devotees around the world who have written to BBT, the book trust which publishes these books, to take those statements out. Unfortunately, when an acharya writes a book and he exists in a certain cultural milieu and he's gone, you can't change the books. So there is this quotation from a Pandit who existed 3,000 years ago, and he said something in a particular reference to women during their childbearing years need protection and cannot be trusted, in the sense you see a lot of teenage pregnancies, you see a lot of things because they're manipulated. They're easily manipulative at that age. It is not that they're manipulative all their life, but that's why it's saying that, what will happen and what will happen to the progeny. Yes, men and women are responsible, but again, it is scientifically proven that it is the woman who basically raises the civilization. A man's job is really to, as they put, there is an English saying, to put the bacon on the table. Of course, it's like bacon, to put the bread on the table, really, in many ways, and to sort of be there, as a protector. It is the woman who actually gives love of God and gives samskaras to the children and to the family. So that's a little bit about that, okay? I definitely wanted to read the entire Vedic Vedic canon before coming to any conclusion about anything. That's one thing. Second thing is, on the internet you will find some things which are okay, some things which are just like all over the place. So good thing, okay? Now we'll go to the second chapter, unless somebody has a burning question or thought.
I'm just wondering, like, in this messed up Kali Yuga,
It is messed up.
advice, like, because I feel like it's not conducive to go from Shudra to Brahmanas or Vaishnava status, because of like all the discriminations. There is like so much violence. Like, I feel like it's just, I don't know, like how to.
In the society in general, right, Charuta?
Like
There's
based on
discrimination.
caste. In this country, there is visa restrictions. Like, it's just like all sorts of discriminations.
Okay.
I'm referring to.
So Charuta, you're right. Charuta, there is a whole material spectrum. And I do not believe that anyone, ultimately the politicians promote this to get and preserve their vote bank. Yes? This caste system can be finished in 1 second, right? Because in many countries there is no caste system. Like there's no caste system. But the politicians themselves preserve it and propagate it to protect vote bank. So this is called, that's why Prabhupada called democracy demon crazy. It's demon crazy. So anyways, but Charuta, regardless of that, there are multiple opportunities. Even with the current milieu, there are educational opportunities. There are many revolutionary and reformatory societies who don't care about it, who don't care what your caste is, who don't ask what your caste is. Important thing is to gain the knowledge and to share the knowledge. And with technology today, this knowledge can be shared with people around the world. Easily. You found some articles online. That means that person was able to communicate to you. That person could be sitting anywhere. So there are opportunities out there. Okay. But don't be discouraged, Charu. There is a God. And it is only a matter of awakening. And a person will find his own association and own awakening. People are finding economic opportunities, they're finding political opportunities, they're finding opportunities, they'll find the real thing also. Important thing is to meet a right person. Once you meet a right person, things become more clear. Okay. So today we read second chapter. Arjuna gave 5 or 6 reasons for not fighting the war. Krishna, in the second chapter, is very easy. I know it looks complicated. It is very easy. Why? Krishna has divided second chapter into 4 neat categories. There are 4 categories in second chapter. When you read the chapter tonight or this week, read it with this understanding. Krishna first gives Arjuna Gyan. First thing is knowledge. Jnana, yoga. You cannot solve the problem with the same consciousness which created the problem at the first place. One of the biggest problems Arjuna is having is he's talking on a very bodily, social, mundane, political platform of life. Krishna sort of takes the ante up a little bit. He ups the ante, as they say. He says, first of all, you should understand, Arjuna, that we are not this body, but we are immortal soul. This is a very important understanding to have as you make decisions in life, as you make choices in life, as you ponder over what is the right thing to do, first you should understand that, calm down, that you are not this body. So, the first thing he talks about is Jnana Yoga. Let's read this section real quick. Anyone can, maybe Charuta, you can read text 2.11 onwards.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned 2.11, right?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
While speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be.
Now I'll explain to you why Prabhupada writes a purport. Here Krishna establishes individuality. Individuality, and he also establishes eternality. Two things. This is a very important purport. There are two ideas here. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, and never will there be a time when we will not exist. He establishes individuality and eternality of individuality. There is a huge philosophical system in India which basically goes like this, and there are multiple variations to this, and it is important, Mohit. You will realize it as you go along in your life. They say that the ultimate truth is Brahman. When nothing exists, only Brahman exists. That Brahman sometimes comes as Krishna, he comes as Rama, he comes as Jesus, he comes as Muhammad, whatever you call him. And when this body is over, then that individual soul merges back into Brahman. Hence, there is no God. There is no reason for adoration or worship of anybody. You all also are Brahman. Right now, you have simply forgotten your nature. When you become self-realized, then you will also merge into Brahman, and everything is one. This is a big philosophical system which comes from the Vedas. And why it came, there was a reason, which we'll discuss some other time. But there is this system. So any form of God is simply Maya, it's simply an illusion. His name is Maya, it's called Mayavad. This is also called Mayavad. Every form is simply Maya. The truth is Brahman. Brahman has no qualities, it has no features, it cannot be explained in words, it is beyond all conception. And when the form disintegrates, then everything merges into Brahman. Krishna in this text is speaking about an eternal individual soul. And he talks about his own eternality and individuality. And Krishna multiple times in Bhagavad Gita talks about relationship between the individual souls and Godhead. So that is why this purport is there. I would like you to read the purport. And if there's any question, we can discuss it. But unless and until you hear the other argument, you will not be able to see it. My goal is to simply show it to you what you will hear as you go along in this journey. Okay, so we keep reading.
As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Bharata, and one learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
And why we should learn to tolerate them? Why? Krishna explains in the next verse.
O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation.
Krishna brings liberation as a worthy goal for the first time in Gita. And this statement of Krishna, that one has to tolerate in the face of dualities, both happiness and distress, without being disturbed, knowing that ultimately it's all transitory, and that the modes of material nature are active, comes repeatedly in Gita. In this section, Krishna also speaks a very nice, beautiful verse. Krishna will speak about the soul now, and that you can read on your own. Very easy to understand, but read 2.22 for sure.
As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones.
Krishna gives this analogy. First, he gives two analogies. One is the child as he grows from youth, young age to youth to adult age to, and then he similarly passes. And he gives another analogy of garments. Useless clothes are given up. Similarly, a devotee, you know, when you are like dancing sometimes and you get tired and you just take your coat out, or you kind of feel hot, you know, well, it was a cold day, you went outside, but you were playing or doing some physical activity and you just remove your coat. Basically, death is like that. You just remove your coat and you keep dancing and you keep playing. You know, it's the same person who exists. So these are the two words, 2.22, and the first few verses. Now, this Krishna explains is called Jnana Yoga. This is knowledge. I am not this body, but I am the soul. When one realizes it, this is just a theory. But when one realizes it and acts on the platform of the soul, that as a soul, what should I do? That I am an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. When one acts on that platform, that is called knowledge. Secondly, Krishna will say, okay, Arjuna, I have given you this basic knowledge. Let's go back now. Let's go back to simple karma yoga. Simple karma yoga. You have been prepared for this battle. The word has accumulated here to fight for righteousness. Gods and demigods and Indra and Shiva have helped you. Hanuman is counting upon you. The whole cosmic universe is looking at you to do the right thing for this planet. Now you do one thing. So he will start speaking from text 31. So 10 to 30 you read it on your own. It talks about the soul and the qualities of the soul. Very easy. So 2.10 to 2.30 is soul. What are the qualities of the soul? I'll give you some questions about that. What is the soul? Why you should tolerate? This is 2.10 to 2.30. 2.1 to 2.10, Krishna called Arjuna Anaryam, Ajustyam, Aswargyam, Akirtikaram Arjuna. Arjuna said, no. How can I fight Bhishma and Drona? They're my teachers, you know. They're my teachers, although they're old, but they're my teachers. And now Krishna talks first about 2.10 to 2.30, the soul. Now he will go back to Karma Yoga. And Karma Yoga has two divisions. What are the two divisions of Karma Yoga? Sakam Karma Yoga and Nishkam Karma Yoga, which is done with some material desires in heart, is called Sakam Karma Yoga. Kam means desire, Baham. Sakam and Nishkam. So the second part of the second chapter is Sakam Karma Yoga. Let's see what Krishna tells Arjuna to do. Anybody, any volunteer to read this next 10 verses?
Considering your specific duty as a Kshatriya, you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. So there is no need for hesitation.
Number one, use your mode of nature you are infected with, you're a Kshatriya, and fight on religious principles. Okay, text 31, 32.
O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planet.
Heavenly planets. Arjuna was, what about going to happen? I'll die, my family will not be here. He says, no, even if you die on the battlefield, you will attain heaven.
So, can I ask a question? So, how Arjuna is Kshatriya on what basis?
Birth.
His birth, he was the son of Indra, number one. He was the son of Kunti, who was also the daughter of a king. His natural qualities, he was the best martial arts student of Dronacharya, and there are a lot of people here. Number three, he displays it consistently. He excels in those martial qualities, you know. So again, his qualities are there. He goes to heavenly planets and he accumulates weapons, and now here he is the commander-in-chief of the army. Okay.
Yeah, in 31, it says you should know that there is no better engagement for you than fighting on religious principles. What are religious principles?
Religious principles are this. Here, religious principles refer to virtue versus evil. Virtuosity and righteousness versus evil and demoniac. What are divine qualities and what are demoniac qualities? That can be argued. What is divine and what is demoniac? Right, Mohit?
Quality of Brahmana could be quality of
Right. No, but what is your, does that my answer satisfies your question?
No, so, yeah, what overall this whole verses says. So you said that the religious principles are virtue versus evil, but what does this translate to this whole verse?
Yes, okay, very good question. Let's look at the 16th chapter. Yeah, we'll just read the 16th chapter real quick.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
What do you want to read?
The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, fearlessness, purification of one's existence, cultivation of spiritual knowledge, charity, self-control, performance of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, austerity, simplicity, non-violence, truthfulness, freedom from anger, renunciation, tranquility, aversion to fault finding, compassion for all living entities, freedom from covetousness, gentleness, modesty, steady determination, vigor, forgiveness, fortitude, cleanliness, and freedom from envy and from the passion for honor. These transcendental qualities, O son of Bharata, belong to godly men endowed with divine nature.
So Prabhu's divine nature, then again it correlates with Brahmana, with Brahmin? Or do we have a correlation?
Actually, all of the four varnas were endowed with divine qualities. Just because somebody doesn't have the quality of a Vaishya doesn't mean that he's not endowed with divine qualities. Everybody is meant to be divine in itself. Okay, keep reading. Text 4.
Text 4. Okay. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those of demonic nature, O son of Pratha. The transcendental qualities are conducive to liberation, whereas the demonic qualities make for bondage. Do not worry, O son of Pandu, for you are born with the divine qualities. O son of Pratha, in this world there are two kinds of created beings. One is called divine and the other is called demonic. I have already explained to you at length the divine qualities. Now hear from me of the demonic. Those who are demonic do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. They say that this world is unreal with no foundation, no God in control. They say it is produced of sex desire and has no cause other than lust. Following such conclusions, the demonic, who are lost to themselves and who have no intelligence, engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy the world. Taking shelter of insatiable lust and observed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demonic, thus illusion, are always prone to unclean work, attracted by the imperfect.
So Mohit, this sort of describes Kauravas in some way.
Continue.
Yeah.
They believe that to gratify the senses is the primary necessary of human civilization. Thus, until the end of life, the anxiety is immeasurable. Bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. The demonic person thinks, so much more wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy, so I am. I shall perform sacrifices, I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. Thus, perplexed by various anxieties and bound by a network of illusions, they become too strongly attached to sense enjoyment and fall down into hell. Complacent and always impudent, deluded by wealth and false prestige, they sometimes proudly perform sacrifices in name only, without following any rules or regulation. Bewildered by false ego, strength, pride, lust and anger, the demons become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in their own bodies and in the body of others, and blaspheme against the real religion. Those who are envious and mischievous, go ahead.
Those who are envious and mischievous, who are the lowest among men, I perpetually cast into the ocean of material existence, into various demonic species of life, attaining repeated birth amongst the species of demoniac life. O son of Kanti, such persons can never approach me. Gradually they sink to the most abominable type of existence. There are three gates leading to this hell: lust, anger, and greed. Every sane man should give these up, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. The man who has escaped these three gates of hell, O son of Kanti, performs acts conducive to self-realization, and thus gradually attains the supreme destination. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. One should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. Knowing such rules and regulations, one should act to that he may gradually be elevated.
So, what is religion and what is irreligion? What is divine and what is demoniac? You know, Mohit, so there is this Duryodhana, he kind of pretty much checks all the boxes. So Arjuna is saying that fighting on the religious principle. So the religious principle, these people had half the kingdom, and they were cheated in gambling, and the condition was after 13 years you'll get the kingdom back. And when they come back, they said, Duryodhana said, I will not give you enough land to drive the head of a pin. And then there were many diplomatic efforts, there were peacemaking efforts. Krishna goes as a messenger, and Duryodhana tries to capture him. Krishna shows him the universal form. Before the start of the battle, Krishna says, you can have me or my army. You can have my wealth or you can have me. So these are demoniac qualities. A lot of these wars which we see in today's world, basically these wars are all geopolitical wars for money, wealth, land, position. So continuing on, we can talk later. Okay. So Krishna, 32.
Which one's reading?
800.
232.
800, we're going back.
Oh, I see. Okay.
O Partha, happy are the Kshatriyas to whom such fighting opportunities come unsought, opening for them the doors of the heavenly planets. If, however, you do not perform this religious duty of fighting, then you will certainly incur sins for neglecting your duties and thus lose your reputation as a fighter. People will always speak of your infamy, and for a respectable person, dishonor is worse than this. The great generals who have highly esteemed your name and fame will think that you have left the battlefield out of fear only, and thus they will consider you insignificant. Your enemies will describe you in many unkind words and scorn your abilities. What could be more painful for you? O son of Kanti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin.
In this section, can anybody say what are the material goals Krishna is encouraging Arjuna for? We just read this about 8 verses in which Krishna explains that you should do your duty. Not doing your duty is sin. Arjuna was afraid of committing sinful activity. He said actually not doing your duty when it's necessary, it's a sin. So what other material motivations?
People will bring
Yes, his name, fame, reputation, esteem, his position, all of that will be sullied. Duryodhana will come and hunt him down, like an animal. They will not think that you have left the battlefield out of compassion. They will think you have left out of fear. What other things? You will either die or attain heaven, or you will win and you will enjoy this earthly kingdom. Okay. Another one.
Enemies will describe you and
Correct. So his reputation, his honor, he talks about his dishonor is worse than death. Okay. So these are some of the qualities. Now, Krishna will say, but this is okay. This is just one part. Now let's move forward a little bit. Let's go to Nishkam Karma Yoga. This was Sakam Karma Yoga. Now Krishna would say, don't worry about heaven. Don't worry about reputation. Don't worry about any of these petty little things I just talked about. I will talk to you something higher, which is called Nishkam Karma Yoga. Third point in second chapter. First was Jnana Yoga, the knowledge of the soul. Second was no. You're a Kshatriya. You have been specifically prepared for this point in time. Now abandoning your duty would be sinful. This is your time to do your work, and by doing your work you will attain heaven and you will not incur sin. It was Sakam Karma Yoga. Now Nishkam Karma Yoga. Okay, when Karma Yoga is done, but I'm not attached to the fruit of my action. So who should the fruit go to? To Krishna. This Nishkam Karma Yoga, in which the fruit is offered to God, meaning your success, your wealth, position, your name, you are not attached to these things, and you give gratitude and thanks and grace to God for everything. Fruit is offered to the Lord. This is called Buddhi Yoga. Krishna introduces another term in second chapter called Buddhi Yoga, or Yoga of spiritual discrimination. Yoga of spiritual discrimination called Buddhi Yoga. What is Buddhi Yoga? Prabhupada explains in 10.10. We'll just read one verse and the purport. What is exactly Buddhi Yoga? So the Sanskrit goes like this. Krishna says,
432 page number.
10.10.
432.
432.
He says, Tesham satata yuktanam, to those who are engaged in serving me with love, bhajatam priti purvakam, priti, with love they bhaj worship, dadami buddhi yogam tam, tena mam upayanti te, I give them buddhi yoga by which they can come to me. Let's read this translation and the purport.
To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. In this verse, the word Buddhi Yogam is very significant. We may remember that in the second chapter, the Lord, instructing Arjuna, said that he had spoken to him of many things and that he would instruct him in the way of Buddhi Yoga. Now, Buddhi Yoga is explained. Buddhi Yoga itself is action in Krishna consciousness that is the highest intelligence. Buddhi means intelligence and yoga means mystic activities or mystic elevation. When one tries to go back home, back to Godhead and takes fully to Krishna consciousness in devotional service, his action is called Buddhi Yoga. In other words, Buddhi Yoga is the process by which one gets out of the entanglement of this material world. The ultimate goal of progress is Krishna. People do not know this. Therefore, the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master are important. One should know that the goal is Krishna, and when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved. When a person knows the goal of life but is addicted to the fruits of activities, he is acting in Karma Yoga. When he knows that the God is Krishna, but
Goal is Krishna.
the goal is Krishna, but he takes pleasure in mental speculation to understand Krishna, he is acting in Jnana Yoga. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is acting in Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, which is the complete yoga. This complete yoga is the highest perfection of life. A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to a spiritual organization, but if he is still not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. The qualification is that a person always engage himself in Krishna consciousness and with love and devotion render all kinds of services. He should perform some sort of work for Krishna and that work should be with love. If a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress on the path of self-realization but is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to Him.
So, Nishkam Karma Yoga, which Krishna will explain now, in which the fruits are offered to the service of the Lord, is called Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga, this text 39, Eshate 2.39, Eshate Bihita Sankhye Buddhir Yoga tu Imam Shrinu, Buddhya Yukto Yaya Partha Karma Bandham Prayashyasi. By engaging in Buddhi Yoga or Partha, you will be able to liberate yourself from the bondage of work. Okay? Now, in text 40, Krishna says, and in this Buddhi Yoga, text 40, in this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. In material realm, let's say you sow a seed. Unless you harvest the crop and sell it at a profit, something happens, your entire work is lost. But in this Buddhi Yoga, anything you do is permanent and you carry with you. So 1% will carry with you. It will become 5%, 10%, 20%, and there is no loss or diminution. In text 41, Krishna says, those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. O beloved child of course, the intelligence of those who are irresolute is many-branched. Now Krishna, in the next almost 12 verses, talks something about Vedas. Vedas is sort of like a manual for human beings to live their life comfortably. So Arjuna's concerns were, what if everybody dies? Who will take care of the forefathers? Who will do the rituals of Karma Kanda? who will then, do this or do that. Here Krishna tells Arjuna that if you engage in Buddhi Yoga or this Nishkam Karma Yoga in which I am the goal, by doing that, you will get the fruit of all of the Vedic teachings. Ultimately, the purpose of knowledge is Krishna. And one who can understand Krishna and serve him without any material desire, he is the best Vedantist. And that Vedantist who simply engage in rituals and Vedantic knowledge but doesn't get to Krishna is simply wasting his time. So we will read these verses from 43 to 54.
Men of small knowledge are very much attached to the flowery words of the Vedas.
What are the flowery words? The heavenly planets, the enjoyment, the karma kanda ritual, the forefathers, this fear and that fear. These is all flowery words of the Vedas. Krishna refutes what he has just spoken a few verses before.
Which recommend various fruitive activities for elevation to heavenly planets, resultant good birth, power, and so forth. Being desirous of sense gratification and opulent life, they say that there is nothing more than this. In the minds of those who are attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and those who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. The Vedas deal mainly with the subject of the three modes of material nature. O Arjuna, become transcendental to these three modes, be free from all dualities and from all anxieties for gain and safety, and be established in the self. All purpose served by a small well can at once be served by a great reservoir of water. Similarly, all the purposes of the Vedas can be served to one who knows the purpose behind them.
Most popular verse of Bhagavad Gita then comes.
You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. Never consider yourself the cause of the results of your activities, and never be attached to not doing your duty.
Now here, people in India, generally they talk about karmanye vadhikaraste, that my adhikar is karma. But Krishna says, ma phaleshu kada means no. In Sanskrit, ma means no. But ma phaleshu kadachana, you're not entitled to the fruits of your action. Many people don't get the second part. The third part, ma karma phala heturbhur. This karma phala is not for you. The fruit of your work is not for you. Matu sango astu akarmani, but you should at the same time not be attached to not doing your duty. Sometimes we shun our duties, or we're like, this is palatable and this is not palatable. This is pleasurable and this is not pleasurable. So Krishna says at the same time you should never be attached to not doing your duty. Whatever your duty is, you should do it. So this verse is very complex. Generally people only take the first part of it.
So, one question. So, Krishna is saying that do your prescribed duty. Also says do not be attached to the fruits. Plus also be detached from the activities that you do. Right?
Results of the
Fruits.
Yeah, and it's basically the whole funda is that you do your duty but don't be attached to the fruits or whatever you are doing. So in our practical world.
Right, but Alec, that only comes at the level of jnana. It doesn't come at the level of karma yoga.
Okay.
You should not be attached to the fruits of your work. And you should do your duty as a matter of duty, whether you like it or you don't like it. It is not that you are not attached to doing your duty. If you have attained detachment from doing your duty, then we will read about that in the 5th chapter. Then that's a whole different state of consciousness. When you are totally detached from the work itself, that's the second level of spiritual advancement. After renouncing the fruit, there comes a point, the person who renounces the fruit is still attached to his work. I am a spirit soul. What is now I have to do? I have no duty, right? That realization comes at the level of jnana. that I'm not attached to the duty itself. And until that realization comes, one cannot be artificially detached from his duty. Is getting to you, Alec? This is what you were saying, right? So Krishna gives an example in the 3rd and the 5th chapter. He gives an example of Janak. He said, King Janaka, really, he was such a great king, but he did perform his duties. Then he gave his own example. He says, I am not attached, but I'm still doing my duties to set a good example. And then he says that when he's fully self-realized, for him there is no duty. Duty can only be transcended when you are completely self-realized. Right?
What comes first, self-realization or detachment from the duty?
Detachment from the fruit of one's action. That comes first. First comes Sakam Karma Yoga. Many of the people who practice Bhakti Yoga, who are practicing Bhakti Yoga, they're on the level of Sakama Karma Yoga. Are you guys following this idea? Okay, let me explain this in a little bit of detail. Okay, we'll just go for another 5-10 minutes. Does anybody have to leave right away? 5 more minutes, okay? So when we talk about yoga, the first thing is Karma Kanda. Karma Kanda is what is in it for me? What am I going to get from this activity? Yes? That is called Karma Kanda. Is it this one? Yeah. So that is called Karma Kanda. In Karma Kanda, KK, the goal is not spiritual, it's not transcendental. The goal is not communion with God or to please God. The goal is to please myself. From that point comes Karma Yoga, in which through good association, I have understood that the objective should be transcendental. The objective should be yoga. But my adhikar at this point is to do karma. Karmanye vadhikaraste. Adhikar, my qualification. My qualification right now is to do my work. But I know that I have to please Krishna. So, but because there is a whole mountain of material desires in my heart, my activity, which is karma yoga, and this karma means prescribed duties. It doesn't mean vikarma, meaning prohibited activities. If I'm still engaging in prohibited activities, it cannot be technically called karma yoga. Yes? So, but, okay, well, let me live a clean life. Let me follow the rules and regulations of God. And although I have material desires of, being a big man or whatever it is, let me work in a way that I can dovetail my activities for the service of Lord. At least let me try that. Yes? This is called Sakam Karma Yoga. By engaging in Sakam Karma Yoga, within the milieu of God consciousness, one comes gradually to the platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga. This is another platform. These platforms cannot be traversed by theoretical knowledge alone. It requires real spiritual advancement to go from one platform to another platform. It takes some time. Sometimes it takes lifetimes to come to the platform of Nishkam Karma Yoga. This Nishkam Karma Yoga carries within its womb Jnana. And it brings me to a platform of Jnana Yoga, which is knowledge that I am not this body, but I am an eternal spirit soul. This knowledge is theoretical and it is a realized knowledge. This Jnana Yoga, when it further matures, when it further condenses and it matures, you can call it Bhakti Yoga. Now, this is called the yoga ladder. Another way to think about this is, another way to look about at this process is like this. Let's say I'm doing karma yoga. Okay, Sakam karma yoga, SKY. But what if I also simultaneously engage in practices of bhakti yoga? Bhakti yoga can be considered as a train. Let's just say we are taking a train from Columbus to New York City. And this name of this train is called the Bhakti train. So we are sitting on the Bhakti train. Huh?
No, sorry, I was asking.
This, we are going, Columbus, we are starting from whatever point I am in my consciousness, and I need to go to New York City. Okay. This is my goal. This is Krishna. And I take Bhakti train. And in this train, I engage in practices of Bhakti Yoga. What are the practices of Bhakti Yoga? What are the main practices?
Devotion.
Correct. What is that devotion constitute of? Correct. So there are 9, when we say Bhakti Yoga, this Bhakti Yoga is made up of, 9 elements. Shravanam and Kirtanam. What we are doing right now is hearing about Krishna. Shravanam and Kirtan. Kirtan means to chant Krishna's names. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. To remember. In whatever we do, it's easy. 24/7, one can remember Krishna. I am the taste of water. I am the light of the sun. I am the sound in ether. I am the ability in man. Of fish, I am the shark. Of welders of weapon, I am Rama. Among women, I am this. Krishna explains multiple times how we can remember him. Next time you drink water, remember Krishna. Smaranam. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. Vishnu Smaranam. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Archanam. Archanam means it's a very powerful way of serving the deity of Krishna. In whatever way we serve the deity of Krishna is called Archanam. Vandanam, saying prayers. Oh Krishna, please help. When you are in difficulty, and you say, Krishna, please help. When I'm in a hospital and I cannot understand a patient from A to B, I just say, Krishna, please help. And every time Krishna helps. That's a basic prayer, or you can say any prayer you like. But ask for his help. That's called Vandanam.
Number 3,
Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. Dasyam means to become a servant of Krishna, render some service like Hanuman did for Rama, did something for Krishna. Dasyam, Sakyam. See, we all look for relationships. We all look for friendships, relationships. When one finds his friendship with Krishna or relationship with Krishna, he's my friend, he's my refuge, he's my support. That is called Sakyam. Padasevanam. To serve the lotus feet of Krishna. Okay, it's similar to Dasyam, it's similar to Archanam. Alec, what is the 8th one? That's the 9th one.
Actually, Shravanam and Kirtanam were first and second.
Yes, Shravanam, Kirtanam. So then you have 8 here, and the 9th one is Atma Nivedanam, is to surrender to Krishna. Can somebody tell me, when you say doctor surrender to Krishna, what does that mean?
Do what pleases.
Surrender has 6 aspects. 1 is do what is pleasing to Krishna. Do what is right. 2, do not do what is displeasing to Krishna. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. Because generally we like to do what we like to do, and we like to avoid what we don't like to do. Do not displease Krishna. What else? To actually consider that Krishna is the enjoyer, it's his creation, he's the maintainer, and he's the proprietor. This is a state of consciousness that ultimately, if I build a house, it's for my enjoyment. I did not build the heavens and the sky and the earth. So for whose enjoyment this is? For Krishna. So that is called Krishna, 3, 4, and 5. And the last one is to be humble. Krishna says humility is a sign of surrender to Krishna. meaning in adverse circumstances if one is humble. So this is called Bhakti Yoga. Now let's say we start from Columbus to New York City and we get on the Bhakti train. Let's say we are doing one or all 9 of the activities or part of the activities or very minimal, whatever we are doing. What happens is we are at the platform of Sakam Karma Yoga. Okay, sky. Sakam Karma Yoga. Meaning I have material desires in my heart, but whatever activities I am doing, I am trying to give up the fruits of my action, dovetail some of my activities in Krishna's service. My time, my energy, my intelligence, whatever it is. Then from Sakam Karma Yoga, now this train will run. This train is going, and it comes at some point to Nishkam Karma Yoga. I will see that, hey, I'm trying to hold on to this and hold on to that and try to differentiate so many things. Why should I not just give everything to Krishna? So that is called a platform. Now the train has come to a platform and it stops there. It's called Nishkam Karma Yoga. Then the train continues. If I have surrendered everything to Krishna, Krishna will give me intelligence and he'll give me knowledge. He will actually make me understand 2.11, that I am not this body, but I am a spirit soul. That is called platform of the train station is coming. It's called Jnana Yoga.
Is this process described by Krishna?
Yes, of course.
So it means we cannot be we cannot reach Nishkam Yoga before doing the Sakam.
You have done that in previous lives. Lot of people are actually right here from the very beginning of their lives. Lot of people start here. Lot of people start at here. Lot of people start here. Lot of people start here. Lot of people start at Karma Kanda, and lot of people start at animal life. Many devotees say, before I came into bhakti, basically there was no difference between me and a dog.